Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Ministers of India and Mauritius jointly inaugurate 6 development projects at Agalega Island to strengthen maritime security and connectivity. In a giant leap for India's semiconductor mission, 3 mega semiconductor fabrication plants to be set up in partnership with Japan, Taiwan and Thailand. The Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is ready for dialogue with the United States on strategic stability, lauds Russia's military advantage over Ukraine. Prime Ministers from India and Mauritius jointly inaugurated a new airstrip and St. James Jetty at the Agalega Island in Mauritius via video conference today. These projects take forward the decades-old partnership, a development partnership between the two countries. India's Prime Minister Modi and his Mauritian counterpart Pravind Jugnauth also inaugurated 6 community development projects. These projects will fulfill the demand for better connectivity between mainland Mauritius and Agalega Island and also strengthen maritime security and foster socio-economic development in the region. India's Prime Minister Modi said that India has always been a first responder to Mauritius.
Development partnership हमारे राजनीतिक संबंधों का अहम स्तंभ रहा है। हमारी विकास भागीदारी मॉरिशस की प्राथमिकताओं पर आधारित है। भारत ने हमेशा मॉरिशस की जरूरतों का सम्मान किया है। संकट कोविड महामारी का हो या तेल रिसाव का, भारत हमेशा अपने मित्र मॉरिशस के लिए फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्डर रहा है।
Praising India as a global powerhouse, Mauritius's Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth said that India's leadership radiates across the world.
As your inspiring leadership and statesmanship radiates across the world, the people of India and the Indian diaspora have strongly established themselves as a global powerhouse of values, knowledge, and success. Today, the people of Agalega are very proud of the developments that are taking place on the island. India's support to our republic is indeed far-reaching, and not later than yesterday, again, thanks to your special consideration towards our republic, Mauritius became the first country to adopt the Jan Aushadhi scheme. This scheme will allow our country to source some 250 high-quality medicines from the Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Bureau of India. It will ensure access to quality medicines from India for our population, especially the vulnerable. And the launching of this scheme in Mauritius will benefit our people at large and will impart further momentum to India's partnership with Mauritius.
The Union Cabinet of India approved the establishment of 3 semiconductor units under the Development of Semiconductors and Display Manufacturing Ecosystems in India. All 3 units will start construction within the next 100 days. The meeting was chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
देश में सेमीकंडक्टर फैब का अप्रूवल देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा निर्णायक मोड़ है ये, और आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने की जो संकल्प लिया है प्रधानमंत्री जी ने, उस संकल्प की बहुत बड़ी ये सिद्धि है। पहली कॉमर्शियल फैब भारत की बनेगी टाटा और पावर चिप ताइवान, इनके कोलैबोरेशन से धोलेरा स्पेशल इंडस्ट्रियल रीजन के अंदर बनेगी पहली सेमीकंडक्टर फैब।
Acknowledging India's leading role in conserving tigers, other big cats and many of its endangered species, the Union Cabinet also approved the International Big Cat Alliance, or the IBCA, on Thursday. Now, IBCA will have its headquarters in India with a one-time budgetary support of approximately $18 million or 1.5 billion rupees for a period of 5 years from 2023-24 to 2027-28.
भारत सरकार के टाइगर कंजर्वेशन के प्रयासों की सफलता के फलस्वरूप जहां टाइगरों की संख्या में बढ़ोतरी हुई और भारत में टाइगरों की संख्या दुगनी से ज्यादा हो गई है, ये 4 वर्ष पूर्व ही हमने इसको पूरा कर लिया, और टाइगर संरक्षण के क्षेत्र में भारत के अनुभव और लीडरशिप का उपयोग विश्व भर में 7 बिग कैट्स टाइगर, लायन, लेपर्ड, स्नो लेपर्ड, पुमा, जैगुआर और चीता के संरक्षण को बढ़ावा देने के लिए किया जाता है। ये आईबीसीए का जो निर्णय लिया गया है बिग कैट अलायंस का, इसका मुख्यालय भी भारत में ही होगा, जैसे इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस का मुख्यालय यहां पर है। इस अलायंस में वैसे देश सदस्य होंगे जहां ये 7 बिग कैट्स पाए जाते हैं और या फिर पूर्व में ये प्रजातियां पाई जाती थी। इसके अतिरिक्त वन्य जीवन संरक्षण के क्षेत्र में कार्य करने वाली साइंटिफिक संस्थाएं और कॉरपोरेशन को भी इस अलायंस के सदस्य के रूप में रखा जाएगा।
Experts have hailed India for blocking a key proposal led by China at the World Trade Organization and have hoped that the WTO membership will recognize the opposition of India and South Africa and make sure that the trade agreements of the future are in accordance with WTO rules.
India needs to be complimented for having taken a very strong stand on the issue of investment facilitation and blocking the integration of this agreement into the WTO family of agreements. And for very good reasons, India has taken this strong principled stand, which actually upholds the WTO rules. We do hope that the WTO membership will recognize the reservations, the opposition of India and South Africa, and make sure that the trade agreement in future is in accordance with WTO rules.
On the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, India's Ministry of External Affairs has said that India desires that there be discussion, diplomacy, and there be constant engagement so that both sides can come together and find a solution.
Our position is very well known. We have said this at various levels, at the highest levels, that India desires that there be discussion, there be diplomacy, there be constant engagement so that both sides can come together and find a solution for peace. So our position is maintained. That is our position.
India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is all set to pay bilateral visits to the Republic of Korea and Japan from the 5th to the 8th of March 2024. In South Korea, South Korea, he will be attending the 10th Joint Commission meeting.
In South Korea, he will be attending the 10th Joint Commission meeting, where, of course, we have a very expansive, broad-based, multifaceted relationship with South Korea. All aspects of the relationship would be discussed, and as to how we can further progress them.
In the latest from the Israel-Hamas conflict, families and supporters of hostages held by Hamas militants in Gaza have set out on a 4-day march to Jerusalem. The demonstrators during the march called for parties involved in ongoing negotiations for a truce in Gaza to close the deal, demanding that the release of their loved ones takes place. The march will wind through different Israeli towns before ending in Jerusalem on the 2nd of March.
march. All Israel is with us. All the nation, everybody. We need the cabinet. We need our prime minister. We need America, Qatar, Cairo, everybody who's in there to close the deal.
And the IDF troops eliminated terrorists and also destroyed tunnel shafts, located several weapons and 5 rocket launching pits. The soldiers identified a terrorist cell in central Gaza. They approached ground troops and directed an aircraft to eliminate the cell. In Khan Yunis, the ground forces coordinated airstrikes to precisely eliminate terrorists. These are Israeli forces that have done this. Now, the Israelis, they've said that there is no limit to humanitarian aid being sent to Gaza. The Israeli government spokesperson, Tal Henrik, has said that over 50 trucks carrying humanitarian aid were transferred to the northern Gaza over the past few days.
Yesterday, an airdrop operation successfully delivered 160 packages of food and medical supplies to southern Gaza and to the Jordanian field hospital in Khan Yunis. This collaborative effort involved Israel, the UAE, Jordan, Egypt, France, and the United States. We say again, there is no limit to the amount of humanitarian aid for the civilians in Gaza. After nearly 5 months of war against Hamas, we know that once humanitarian aid does get in, the terror organization Hamas takes over. Looting is also a problem. But we are working with the Biden administration to find ways to improve the humanitarian assistance delivery.
The Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, has said that Hamas's aim is to take pressure off its fighters in Gaza by forcing Israel to shift security resources to Jerusalem and the West Bank. His statement came after Hamas called on Palestinians to march to Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque at the start of Ramadan. The Israelis, they have said that they may set up limits to worship at Al-Aqsa during Ramadan, according to the security needs. Many Palestinians are rejecting such restrictions on their access to the site.
Hamas' top goal at this time is to cause a flare-up in Temple Mount, so that we are forced to take some of the pressure off and move resources and forces to the West Bank and Jerusalem. We must not give them that. On the one hand, we are operating against terrorist elements, and on the other hand, it is our obligation to allow freedom of worship. And I think we will reach the right arrangements that will allow that.
Meanwhile, tensions have escalated along the Israel-Lebanon border. The Israeli military on Wednesday released a video showing strikes on Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. The strikes on targets in Yarin and Bint Jabal, both towns close to the Israeli border, came after Hezbollah ally Hamas said that it launched 2 missile salvos from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. The Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered his annual State of the Nation address in Moscow on Thursday. He updated the assembly on the war in Ukraine, nuclear capabilities, and its relationship with the West. The speech comes 2 weeks ahead of the presidential election. President Putin said that he is ready for dialogue with the United States on strategic stability, but rejected any attempts to force Russia into talks.
Russia is ready for dialogue with the United States on the issue of strategic stability. Our position is clear. If you want to discuss the significant, important issue of security and stability, which is important for the entire planet, you must do so only in a single junction. Naturally, including all those aspects that affect our national interests and directly affect the security of our country.
And DD India's Dasha Chernyshova now joins us live from Moscow with more on the story. Dasha, what is Moscow expecting by saying that it's willing to enter stability talks with the United States?
Well, what Moscow is saying that it does see the destructive force of Washington against the Russian Federation. The Russian president has been talking about that for months, if not years, suggesting that the ruling elites in the US are not interested in ending the confrontation between Moscow and the West. Instead, they are, according to the Russian president, only sparking that. And it is very difficult to talk about strategic stability with the United States, which is saying that they do want to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield in Ukraine. So the statement of the Russian president could also be seen as an invitation for the Western countries to change their course towards the Russian Federation, because keep in mind, the Russian president was talking a lot about the development of the most sophisticated weapons that Moscow has been working on for years now, and they are now on combat duty and in use, including in Ukraine.
Dasha, also President Putin has warned the West of facing tragic consequences if they send troops to Ukraine. How are the people of Russia viewing this speech?
Well, that's right. The Russian president said that should NATO troops get on the ground in Ukraine, that would inevitably lead to a potential nuclear conflict. And that is certainly not what people in Russia or beyond would like to see, because Russia is a nuclear power, but a responsible one, as the Russian politicians have been talking before, suggesting that the Russian military doctrine provides for the specific cases when the nuclear weapons could be used. And we are not there yet, but Moscow is definitely sending a message to the Western countries that Russia does have this arsenal and reminds of it. As for the people in Russia, we understand that this speech comes just weeks before the presidential vote here in Russia, and the Russian president is widely expected to win a new 6-year term. So this speech is seen as a sort of message to the Western countries, as well as to the Russian people, who need to understand in what state the country is at the moment. So the Russian president was talking about international and domestic issues, as we have talked to people here in the streets of Moscow, many approve of what has been said.
Also, so the President Putin addressed concerns about the domestic economy. Has he, tackled issues like the economic sanctions on the Russian economy?
Well, he talked a lot about the development of economy in Russia, saying that Russia is at the moment the first economy in Europe in terms of PPP and the fifth one worldwide. But the aim is very ambitious. Moscow does want to develop even further, does want to become the fourth economy worldwide. It does want to invest a lot into the social and economic sector. The Russian president was talking about the development of artificial intelligence, saying that was very important at the moment for Russia. Having said that, we also understand that Moscow will continue to develop its military sector, because Moscow says that science and technology is something that is needed there. And this is what we are seeing already in the making, with the defense sector being paramount for the Russian economic development, but obviously not the only one, and many sectors developing in conjunction with that. So the Russian president was outlining the plans for the next 6 years. But as he was talking in his address, it does seem that the Russian economy has managed to weather the storm of the international sanctions.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Dasha Chernyshova from Moscow. Still to come here on DD India Live. The French government seeks to make abortion a constitutionally guaranteed right. And Liverpool beat Southampton 3-0 on Wednesday.
The curious case of Julian Assange. The future of lunar exploration. And the biggest snake discovered in the Amazon rainforests. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lin. The US Supreme Court has agreed to decide Donald Trump's claim of immunity from prosecution for trying to overturn his 2020 election loss. This has given him a boost as he tries to delay criminal prosecutions while also running to regain the presidency. The justices put on hold the criminal case being pursued by the special counsel Jack Smith. They will also review a lower court's rejection of Trump's claim of immunity from prosecution because he was president when the actions took place. Now, Trump, the first former president to be criminally prosecuted, is the frontrunner for the Republican nomination to challenge Biden, a Democrat, in the November 5 U.S. election. Trump, in a post on his social media platform, hailed the Supreme Court's decision to hear his immunity claim. In a surprise move, a Cook County judge on Wednesday ordered the state election board to remove the former President Donald Trump from the Illinois March 19 primary ballot because of his role in the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on the 6th of January 2021. The decision is delayed from taking effect in the light of an expected appeal by the former U.S. president.
They do, but we love all of you.
France's Senate has adopted a bill to enshrine women's right to an abortion in the Constitution. The bill cleared a key hurdle for legislation promised by President Emmanuel Macron. 267 senators voted in favor of the bill, while 50 against it. The access to abortion now has been extended to 14 weeks of pregnancy from 12 weeks. The text adopted by the Senate seeks to modify Article 34 of the French Constitution. The next step is to finalize the inscription, and it is for the National Assembly and the Senate to hold a Congress in Versailles in which two-thirds majority is needed. Shifting focus to the Asia-Pacific, a representative of South Korea's doctors on Thursday said that they supported a walkout by trainees and would continue to push for their demands to be met. The statement was made ahead of the deadline set by the government for these doctors to return to work. The Korean Medical Association said that the contracts of most trainee doctors who had handed in their resignations would expire on Thursday. Two-thirds of the country's residents and intern doctors have walked off the job, protesting the government's plan to raise the number of students admitted to medical school each year by 2,000. Fumio Kishida became the first sitting Japanese Prime Minister to appear before a parliamentary ethics committee on Thursday as he sought to draw a line under a funding scandal that has hurt his popularity and may delay next year's budget. Kishida's attendance followed weeks of wrangling between the opposition and the ruling Liberal Democratic Party over the technicalities of how to hold the hearings, which will look into how some LDP factions failed to report hundreds of millions of yen from fundraising parties. Kishida is not directly implicated in the scandal, but he said that his party could consider penalizing those involved as it works on prevention measures. Pakistan's newly elected lower house of parliament has met for the first time on Thursday, with freshly elected members taking oaths amid protests on the floor of the House by the supporters of the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The session took place under tight security after earlier this week the inaugural session of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Provincial Assembly was marred by the pelting of some members with pens and slippers from the visitors' gallery. The Chief of Air Staff of India, Air Chief Marshal B.R. Chaudhary, paid a notable visit to Bangladesh's Air Force Base, Birsheshto Maitur Rahman in Jashore on Thursday. And during this excursion, he engaged in insightful dialogue with the officers, cadets and instructors at the BAF Academy, fostering bilateral exchanges and cooperation. Earlier on Wednesday, the Indian Air Force's chief visited the National Defence College of Bangladesh and delivered a talk on lessons from ongoing conflicts, and also interacted with the faculty and senior officers of the course. The Air Chief Marshal is on a 3-day visit to Bangladesh. Every year, the world observes Rare Disease Day, and that takes place in the last week of February, highlighting the importance of research and advocacy. While new diseases are still being discovered, the National Institutes of Health, they've identified around 7,000 rare diseases. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke to the ambassador of Sweden to India. Let's listen.
Today, the 29th of February, is the Rare Disease Day internationally, and of course also in India. So we are the two things together. Sweden and India are working very closely when it comes to climate and environmental issues. At COP28, the environmental summit in Dubai, the climate summit, the Honorable Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Sweden together launched Lead It, which is the leadership group for Industry Transition 2.0. And this is a very big initiative, international initiative, engaging international companies, countries around the world. Just in a couple of days' time, we launched the Sustainability by Sweden. Will be launched here in the presence of our State Secretary here in Delhi. And that's also together with companies, together with the Swedish Embassy, together with the Consulate General in Mumbai, together with Business Sweden, of course, together with the Chamber of Commerce. And I feel that there is a fantastic opportunity that we are grasping now to work with companies and to show that the private sector can do so much, leading by example and leading by action.
Let's take a look now at other stories making the news. India's Trinamool Congress party leader Sheikh Shah Jahan has been sent to 10 days of police custody after his arrest on Thursday morning. The party has suspended Shah Jahan for 6 years. The arrest came following mounting pressure on the West Bengal state administration amid allegations of crime, atrocities and violence against women. The Samajwadi Party President Akhilesh Yadav on Thursday did not appear before the Central Bureau of Investigation for questioning as a witness in the illegal mining case. The SP President explained his inability to appear in person because of the precautions for the upcoming polls, but assured all the help to the probe agency in the investigation. A quick update from the sports desk, and the team Liverpool has beaten Southampton 3-0 on Wednesday to set up an FA Cup quarter-final tie with Manchester United on the 16th of March. Now, what's happened is that Luis Comas had scored in the 44th minute before the fellow youngster Jayden Danns hammered a brace. Luis Comas opened the scoring at Anfield when he collected Bobby Clark's pass and found the bottom corner with a shot that deflected off Saints captain Jack Stevens a minute before the break. And with this win, Liverpool has now progressed into the quarterfinal where they will meet Manchester City. I beg your pardon, Manchester United. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, which was formerly Twitter, and also you can connect with us on Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.